Hi everyone, Audrey here, and welcome back to Wild Bush and Grit. So that's it, we reached the end of the hunting season, and I'm going to store my guide gun, but before doing so, I'll need to clean it up, oil it up, and before putting it in the storage case. I'm not going to clean the scope in this video. As you can see, it's like super dirty, but I'll cover that in eventually I'll cover it in another video. So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to disassemble the whole rifle, almost. There are a few things maybe I will keep there, but like I will really disassemble the removing the rails, the scope. Oh my god, I did not expect that. I had a hunch about like what would happen there, but like I didn't think it would be that bad. It's okay, we're gonna take care of it. That's a sorry sight. Oh my god. This part here is not so bad, so that's I'm not worried here. Front sight, okay. The rear here, okay. It's really the middle part that. So before continuing the disassembly of this rifle, I'm gonna start to really clean the bore. And to clean the bore, what I need to do is I need to remove the lever and the bolt, of course. We clean the bore. I'll oil it once it's pretty clean, and then we'll continue with the disassembly of the rifle. So to remove the lever, you need to remove that screw here. Then you can, once the lever is out, you can pull out the bolt, and you also can take out the ejector at that point. So I'm using this just to help guiding the cleaning rod. So for cleaning, I like to start with mineral spirits to clean the bore first, and then after I'm going to use, it's a combination of oil and solvent that helps clean, lubricate, and protect your rifle. In the little spray bottle in front, it's actually mineral spirits that I have here. It's small quantity that I can spray straight into the bore. I'm going to use 2 sides of cotton cloth, so the small one to use with the bronze brush, and the larger one to use with this, I don't know how to call it, this tool here. And of course you'll need cleaning rods, of course. So I'll start with the large cloth. So that little spray bottle wasn't doing too good, so I was just pouring the liquid on the on the cotton rag. Make sure you soak it wet. Actually, surprised here, it's not so dirty. I'm wondering what's the reddish color I'm seeing. Is it like some sort of rust into the barrel? Also, for maximum efficiency, make sure your shot is out of focus on camera. It makes the cleaning even better. Now that the bore is full of mineral spirit, we'll let it sit for 5 minutes and then we'll come back. Now we're going to use the bronze brush, and we're going to run it through the bore a couple of times to remove any loose particle. And now I'm gonna use the small rag, the small cotton rag, and spray the other one. Make sure you have more product on the rag rather than your finger. Yeah, see, that's kind of dirty. So I'll do that a couple of times. You know, I will alternate with using the cleaning agent. I'll run one dry and then I'll add the gun treatment oil on top of it, and I'll alternate between the two until at some point, you know, the cotton rag will come out fairly clean. It's almost impossible to have it like, you know, pure white. You always have, you know, a little bit of a coloring happening, but you know, I would say do it once with a cleaning agent and do it another time like that. And when you're done, when it's fairly clean, now I will give a good amount of oil on the bigger rag, and I will, you know, oil very well the interior of the barrel, and we should be good. So next we're going to continue our disassembly, and starting removing the stock. The stock is held by one bolt here, super easy to remove. Then I'm going to release the hammer, and we're going to remove the hammer spring and the hammer spring adjusting plate. Next is going to be the trigger guard plate by removing this screw here, and a second one here near the forend. Just that screw in the button, now you can pull out the trigger guard plate. The hammer also come out completely, and now the carrier. So one bolt here, one screw here for the carrier, and you can remove it. And you can also remove the locking bolt. Yeah, we'll have to clean this up really well. The carrier too is a little bit affected here, but it's okay, it's not so bad. Now to the forend, we can remove the forend tip. There are two screws, one on each side, and it will slide off, but not completely. Way to remove that screw here under the magazine tube. So now you need to pull the magazine from the barrel, and it's held by a stud. You know, there's a stud fixed on the barrel that intrude into the magazine, and you need to pull the magazine away from the barrel. And once it's done, the magazine tubes and the forend will come. Beware of the spring. So I'm gonna put all these pieces, I'm gonna spray them well with the cleaner, the product cleaner that I have, and I'll let that sit in a container for a little while we do some other stuff on the rifle. And also what I'll do is for example, I keep my screw under it and I'll spray them. For the stock, if you call Marlin, they'll tell you that they're, you know, what they use for the wood is called something like a Marshall, and it's a type of lacquer. So I don't know if it's an oil base or varnish or whatever it is, but what they recommend is to use good old edge to actually clean and polish your stock. I was a bit skeptical, you know, I've been working wood for a couple of years, and you know, I love to use wax, oil, or varnish depending on what I'm doing, but I was skeptical on the pledge, but it actually works really well, and I'm amazed by how good my stock is looking after using the pledge. So that looks really good now. That's really nice. Seriously, I didn't expect that. Okay, so now we're gonna tackle the rust that I had on my barrel and my magazine tube. I'm gonna use steel wool, the finest, which is 0000. It's like Santa Claus. It's even red and green. Ho 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 ho. And some oil. So spray in advance and let it sit a little bit. And with the steel wool, you want, like, I'm using this oil to lubricate because you don't want to go too hard on the blued barrel. So so very light touch. I'm not applying any sort of pressure. I'm just letting the oil and the steel wool, I'm just letting the oil and the steel wool removing the rust very lightly. So no force. And I'm using my finger from time to time. Our fingers are very sensitive to any asperity of a surface, and I'm using my finger to feel if I still have a lot of rust or grit on my surfaces. So you see, I can see the steel is a little bit exposed here, so this is something I'll have to watch over the years. Now the top of the rifle. So this part here wasn't too bad. I will not spend too much time here, but I will spend more time where the rail was touching the barrel, like at this part here. So this, in the end, when cleaning it, it's not as bad as it looked previously. So, but I think I'll have at least once a year, or at least every 2 years, open up that rail and seeing what's happening. I actually have a trick up my sleeve that I'm gonna try later to see if I can prevent rust from continuing in this area. When moisture gets trapped between the rail and the barrel, I think it's very difficult to dry, and this is where rust will occur. Right? And while we're at it, I decided to continue cleaning the interior of the action. And with the brush and a bit of oil, solvent. And you want to remove as much oil as possible from your action, because you don't want to finish with an oily action here. So clean as much as you can and remove as much of the oil and solvent that you add there. And to clean all these nook and cranny, I use old Q-tips, good old Q-tips, not old Q-tips. Alright, so the rail, again, it looks bad, but it's not so bad. And moisturize it, a little brushing, and a little bit of steel wool, and that will do the trick. So all the pieces that you left soaking, now it's time to clean them. You can use a little bit of steel wool if you have some rust, but just clean them dry, and we'll be ready for the reassembly. So I'll start with the forend, and here's the trick I have up my sleeve. I don't know if it's gonna work, so this is the first time I'm doing this, but let's hope it works. And I'm using some deer tallow here. If you follow my channel, recently I kept the fat from my harvest, and I transferred, I kept some in form of tallow. So what I'm gonna do is, all the parts that are trapped between the wood or between the rail and the barrel, I'm gonna add a thin coat of deer tallow, and I'll see in a year how it fares. And what I hope it's going to do is going to protect, like tallow stays hard, it's not something that's gonna melt right away, and I hope it's gonna protect the barrel for at least some time. So yeah, putting the rifle back is also straightforward process. I like to start with the forend. Once everything is in place, make sure that your spring is working, that your the magazine tube follower is properly hooked up. And I'm gonna start tightening down some screw. the forend tip, and you have two on each side. One on each side, sorry. More deer tallow that I'm going to apply on top of the barrel and the receiver. So just a thin layer, you know. And I'm gonna fix the rail with the same screws, obviously. So now we're going to start with the carrier, and you know, the carrier needs to be aligned with the hole that is next to the safe. Then you can slide in the locking bolt. Just like that. And next is the trigger guard plate. And if we remember, the trigger guard plate had 3 screws, one underneath. One on the side. The hammer. So at this point we have 3 screws left. So the short one is for the lever, the long one is for the stock, and the middle one is for the hammer here. Alright, now the next part is going to be tricky to put back. So we need to fix the hammer spring and the hammer adjusting plate. And you need to push down on the hammer plate and insert the hammer plate inside a groove. And once you're there, make sure the hammer spring plate is sitting in the middle. If you think you're good, you can test your trigger at that point. Make sure your trigger works well. And if it does well, then you're good. Then you can add your stock, which should slide back in easily. And you only had 1 screw for the stock. And I'd suggest you test your trigger again. It's all working. Nice. We're almost done. We're going to put back the ejector before putting the bolt. And when you put the ejector in, on the other side you have a tiny hole. If that tiny hole is filled, then you put your ejector at the right place. Now insert the bolt halfway, not all the way, just halfway. And reach with your lever, insert it at that angle to make sure that you can engage the bolt. To test it, just align your lever with the screws here, and you can try to work your bolt. And if it works, it means you're all set, and you can tighten that screw. So as I was tightening all the screws, I did not torque anything down too hard. They're all fairly loose. And I'm waiting to complete the assembly of the rifle before tightening down all the screws really well. And at this point, make sure your lever is actionable, your trigger is working, work your safety on and off, and make sure everything is in order. And yep, it's all good here. I'm really happy with how it looks now. All clean, shiny, well oiled. It's time for that beauty to go to sleep. Look at that. I don't know if you remember how it looks on the first shot, but I'm surprised myself. All right, so a few words to finish. One thing is we have disassembled this rifle and cleaned it. I'm going to reopen that rifle next year for spring there. And before doing anything with that rifle, I need to remove the oil that is in the barrel at the moment. So first thing I will do when I pull that rifle out of its case is clean the barrel clean of oil, like remove all the oil inside. And the second thing that I'm going to do is go to the range and readjust my zeroed, because all the everything we've done here, that your rifle is no longer, don't consider that rifle to be on 0. But that's how I do it. And also I'll try to follow up later in a year maybe to see how that tallow held up and if there was any more rust progression, or if it worked. I'll let you know how that experiment goes. So remember, clean and 0 before doing anything with this rifle next year. And that's it. See you folks. Bye bye.